what an introduction. Okay, like Robert said, I'm Alyssa, and I am the Student and Children's Coordinator here at Hope, and I'm just so glad to be here with you guys tonight. And we're just going to jump right in because I have lots to say, so I like to talk sometimes. Anyway, throughout this Head, Heart, and Hands series, we've learned all sorts of things. So 2 weeks ago, we heard from Robert, and he talked all about how we can make Jesus like the center of our life and invite him into every part of our lives. And then last week, we heard from Pastor John about having a heart of prayer and how prayer can have so much power in our lives. So tonight, we are going to talk about our hands. And we are going to talk about how Jesus reached out with his hands and what it looks like to have hands that serve and reach out to others. So, what a better place to start than looking at Jesus. So we are going to take a look at how Jesus reached out to the world around him. So, throughout Jesus' ministry, we see example after example of him using his hands. And I know this looks like a lot, okay? But these are only like a tiny little snapshot of what Jesus did. So we're going to take a look at how Jesus healed people and did miracles through his hands. So the first story I want to share with you is about a man named Jairus. And he is a leader of a synagogue, but he's also just a dad. And he is a dad that was desperate for his daughter to be healed. So he went humbly to Jesus and asked Jesus if he could heal his daughter. And then Jesus, after healing another woman, went to his house. And by the time they got to their house, they opened the door, and everybody in the house was sobbing because the little girl had died. But Jesus came in and he said, "No, she's only asleep." And so, holding her hand, he said to her, "Little girl, get up." And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and walked around. And they were overwhelmed and totally amazed. So we see another one in Matthew where Jesus heals a man who had leprosy. And the man, again, desperately needed healing. And Jesus reached out and touched him. And instantly, the leprosy disappeared. And again, in Mark, he put his fingers on a man's ears who was deaf and on his mouth so he could speak properly again. Jesus, not just these 3 times, but over and over again, was healing people by reaching out to them. And we also see a miracle that he does with Peter. So I don't know if you know the story, Jesus walking on water, maybe not, but Jesus was walking on water, and then Peter was like, "If it's you, then tell me to come out too." So Peter, steps out of the boat and goes and starts walking on water. But when he saw the wind and the waves, he began to be terrified and start to sink. So he cried out to Jesus, and immediately Jesus reached out and grabbed him. So we see Jesus healing people and doing these miracles. And this is just a short list. Like, there are so many more. But we don't just see Jesus healing people with his hands. We also see him blessing people and serving people. In Mark chapter 16, Jesus blesses a group of children. It says, "Then he took the children in his arms, placed his hand on their head, and blessed them." We see Jesus invite people in, whether it was to eat with him or to pray with him. Jesus met people where they were at. I think of the woman at the well, how he went to her and met her needs. Jesus taught people in his homes, or in their homes, in crowds and crowds of people. He counseled people. I think of when John last week talked about how Jesus liked to go on walks with people. And so often on those walks, Jesus was counseling them, building relationships with them, and helping them in their lives. And he prayed with people. And then on the night before Jesus died, he washed his disciples' feet, humbly serving them and washing them clean. And with his hands, he broke the bread and gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my body, given for you." And then after they ate, he took the cup and said, "This is my blood shed for you." And that's not where it ends. Then Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice. With his hands, he carried his cross And then he died on that cross. And his hands tell the story. Those marks on his hands tell us about the sacrifice that he made. That he died for all of us. That he died so we could be free from sin. And so now I want to tell you guys a story about two people in my life whose hands have reached out to others and what it looks like to have hands that reach out to others. I think these people are pretty great, so just bear with me. But these are my grandparents. They're pretty cute, I think. So I'm going to tell you a bit about them. The bottom hand is my grandpa on the left, and he has spent his whole life reaching out to others and blessing other people. He will spend hours and hours telling you stories, but what he won't tell you is how faithful he is, how generous he is, and how humble he is. So every single year he plants this garden, and he says he's going to downsize every year. It never happens. Like, this garden is probably the size of this worship center, and I wish I was joking. And you'd think if you have that big of a garden every year, you'd make a business out of it, sell some things, get some profit. But no, my grandpa somehow knows enough people and finds enough people to give it all away every year. I mean, the cucumbers, the squash, the corn, the tomatoes, the endless list of things. And yes, I've had to help plant it, and yes, it takes at least a couple days. But that's not it. My grandpa also builds things with his hands. He loves to build wood things. He's given hundreds of bluebird houses and tables and the coat tree things where you hang your coat on it. And he also taught me what it looks like to take care of the land and God's creation. And so my grandpa has given back to so many people his whole life. And then there's my grandma. She's cute too. I love her. She just takes care of all of us. She feeds us. She makes sure we're clothed literally every time we'd go play outside. Do you have socks? Do you have enough layers? Do you have a hat? Do you have your gloves? Anything. She made sure we were all taken care of. But she just loves us, and she provided so much joy for us. And that's not it either. She spent every week teaching confirmation at her church, and she every week still goes to a nursing home and leads chapel every Friday. So these are people whose hands tell a story. Another thing that they do is they pray. So there's 7 of us grandkids on my mom's side of the family, and each of us have a day of the week, right? So I'm usually Thursday, and they pray for each of us on our day of the week. So cute. So precious. They actually just called me and asked if they could bump me to Wednesday. And I was like, I've always been Thursday, what's going on? But they knew that I was here with all of you guys on Wednesdays, and they wanted to pray for you guys too. So you're getting prayed for by these people. But these hands, they tell a story, and I think that is just a beautiful testament of what God can do when we reach out. It looks like wrinkly hands that have seen a lot of life. It's not always pretty to give. It takes sacrifice. And just like Jesus' hands, his hands didn't end up pretty either. They reached out, and they still love us. So how do we do this? How can we reach out and bless others with our hands? I don't know about you, but I don't own a farm and a garden where I can grow half the town produce to keep them good through winter. I can't do that. And I'm not Jesus. I can't heal somebody's blindness. So what can I do? How can I serve? There's a pastor that I know. His name's Doug, and him and his wife Deb, they led a small group I was in a couple summers ago, and they told me this. They said, Deb would end our time every week, and she'd say, go be Jesus to someone today. But then Doug would remind us, he's like, guys, it's just as simple as doing the good right in front of you. Help out a friend. Spend a little extra time helping a coach or a teacher clean up. Spend time with your sibling, helping them do their homework. Whatever it is, simply being generous with your actions. And start by doing one good thing right in front of you. Be Jesus to someone today. Right? That sounds simple, but it's not always that simple. Giving often takes sacrifice. Maybe you have to sacrifice some of your time and dedicate it to helping others. Maybe you have to sacrifice getting the next new iPhone or the next new cool pair of shoes and give that money back to the community or back to the church. So often, it's the small things that stop us from being generous. Because staying that extra 5 minutes to help someone do whatever they're doing, it's never the ideal thing to do, right? The way our society works is so individualistic. It's so go, go, go. And success is often defined as, let me do the next thing for myself and the next accomplishment for myself, right? We are selfish, and it takes work to be selfless. So what even is the benefit of being selfless? I've told you it doesn't look pretty. It takes sacrifice. It takes time. So why even do it? Well, when people take the time to reach out to others, just like Jesus did, it fills you with love and joy and peace and encouragement. I think back to my grandparents. Their lives were full of love and joy and laughter. And yes, it was also full of difficult times, and they had to make sacrifices, and it was hard. But their heart was full of love. So I think about this time when I went to Jamaica on a mission trip. We went to the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. I went for a week, but 3 years in a row. So it was my spring break trip, 3 years in a row. And there were times where it was uncomfortable, like the lizards that were everywhere, or the food that had bones in it, like when we ate oxtail or tuna that had tiny bones that get stuck in your teeth, or when it was my only break away from school, and I didn't like school, and I needed a break from school, but I sacrificed that break from school. There were so many uncomfortable moments. The language barrier. I didn't know how to speak sign language, so how could I reach out to them? But that's not the thing that I came back and told people when I went on those mission trips. I came back and I told people about the dance party we had with all the deaf students and the teachers and the staff at the school. I told them about how we rebuilt a library after it had been taken over by termites during COVID. I told them about how it rained after a 3-month drought and it stopped the wildfires, and they were struggling to conserve water, and how it poured the day we were there. I think about when all the relationships that I built there. I think about Richard and Nathaniel and all the students that I got to see year after year. God does so many cool things when we give our time. He fills us up. And there's power when we take the time to learn someone's story, to listen to them, to learn from them, and to love them. God has just such a beautiful way of filling us up when we serve. And while we were there was this theme verse. It said, "He must become greater and greater, and I must become less and less." So what does it look like for us to become less, to focus on being selfless and reaching out to other people? It looks like effort that we put in, but when we put in that effort, love becomes more evident. Jesus becomes more evident. He becomes greater. So I don't know if you know this, but Hope's mission statement is actually to reach out to the world around us and share the everlasting love of Jesus. Exactly what we're learning tonight, right? But wow, how beautiful it is when we all join together to reach out and make Jesus become greater by loving other people. So we want to help you get into the habit of serving here at Ignition and reach out. Because how beautiful would it be if we all spent a little extra time loving the people around us? So next summer, like Robert said, you guys have an opportunity to go on a mission trip together. And it's powerful. I've seen it firsthand what God can do when we work together to serve communities. So stay the extra 5 minutes tonight. Learn some information about how you can tangibly serve people. And next week, we are going to do something we call Real Love Night. So in your small group, you guys are going to take some time to come up with a service project that you can do together. And then next week, you're actually going to go and do it. So if you don't remember anything from tonight, I want you to know this, that reaching out with your hands fills the heart, your heart, but also fills the hearts of the people around you. And it fills God's heart. So go, do the good right in front of you, be Jesus to someone today, reach out to the world around you, and share the everlasting love of Jesus. So now I am going to pray. God, help us reach out. Humble our hearts. Help us to be selfless. Thank you for the people in our lives whose hands tell a story. Thank you that your hands always reach out to us. Thank you that you love us, and thank you that you died on a cross to forgive us from our sins. God, I just bless these students, and I pray that you guide them in reaching out to their community and to the people around them. Help them to love others. We love you so much. Amen.